Okay, go ahead.
Okay, good morning and happy new year, Niskuna. It is January 3rd at the Economic Development, Historic Preservation and Environmental Conservation Committee. And we'll start off with attendance.
We have David DiArpino, John Villalata, and Cassidy Dorian, Kara Parks, Matt Yetto, Natalie Saverio, Elena Finnan, George Strayer, myself, Laura Barneson, Rita Ogburn McCall, and Trish Bernami.
Very good. And do we have anything from the public this morning or anybody that wants to address anything?
Yeah, I just want to ask a question. Someone posted something on a Facebook page that Niskuna residents follow, and there appears to be tree cutting on Van Antwerp Road. And yeah, and I think it's closer to Union Street. Okay, the Van Antwerp Road closer to Union Street, mature trees are being cut down. And the residents' concern is it's heavily trafficked area, noise pollution, and then also the fumes from buses and cars, and the trees obviously help with that. And so I was just wondering, what was going on, and if we could know what's going on, and if the trees were going to be replaced.
We can look at it. You can take trees down on private property up to 10,000 square feet without building permit.
This appears to be, they took a picture and it's posted on Facebook.
It looks like
And
a lot of clearing.
No, well, it's just one little section. They didn't, give us the picture of the whole street. They gave us one section, and it appears to be on the other side of the sidewalk. So I'm not sure if the other side of the sidewalk belongs to the town or the resident. I'm not sure of, the plot.
But
It's in the right of way, or if it's.
Well, to me, if it's on this side of the road, of the sidewalk, it's gotta be town.
Yeah. Yeah, so it would either be the county or the private property owner. I mean, we can certainly take a look, but in either case, if it's just 5 or 6 trees, it won't be a code violation. And I share everyone's upsetness when old trees come down, so that I 100% agree that they are the thing that's gonna save the world, but that's not a code violation.
So what would have been the purpose of the county taking down the trees?
I'm gonna ask right now.
Yeah, and
You don't know if it was vacancy though.
No, I'm just gonna see if they're doing tree trimming.
yeah, it's on Facebook. I could send it to
I
you.
was gonna say, I live on Van Antwerp. I haven't noticed it, but I'm not down.
It's
well. I mean, it's
Well, see, that's what I posed. The question is, why are they taking it down? And they didn't know. So I said that I would bring it forth just to get some clarification.
Well, the other thing is, if it's in the right of way, it could also be National Grid. National Grid is sometimes the worst offender. Like, trees aren't even that close to the power line, and people run through out there and you take them down. Like, I have anxiety every time I get a letter that says you're gonna take trees down in your neighborhood, because I want to be there when they're there. They're not that.
That's like
thoughtful.
aspen.
Yeah.
People ask Niagara Mohawk when they want a tree removed and say, can you take the tree down? And they're like, more than happy.
I didn't
Because
know
that
that
happened
had
already.
something to do with the power line.
Yeah,
I wasn't
that's-
sure because,
it's
you
also a
do have a
possibility.
lot of power lines on the Van Antwerp Road, but there was clearing in, River Road Park in the wooded areas. Because when I was walking yesterday or 2 days ago, they were actually working and cutting down
The
brush and
lines.
whatnot.
Yeah.
National Grid.
Yeah.
No, it was clearly a commercial truck, yellow emblem, did not look like county, looked like a subcontractor.
They do have subcontractors.
Yeah.
I'll try to find out. It might be an easy answer, it might not be, but we can follow up.
Right. And, obviously my concern is drainage. I'll just keep following it.
Well, thank you. Is there anything else from the public?
I did not see any emails.
All right, very good. And that brings us to the December 6th, 2024 minutes. We have a motion to accept those.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I'll second. Any opposed? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. And then that passes unanimously, which brings us on to our resolutions.
Okay, so you've got a public hearing for the short-term rental code amendments. There were some changes that were made from the code that the last public hearing the town board had. I don't know, I am certainly capable of going through them here. I have my own opinions on them, which I have shared with the board.
Yes, I did, review your statement about it. I don't disagree with your opinions, really. I think there are, some board members that may believe it's too restrictive. I think the goal for, the town, or at least from my perspective, always was to discourage a business-like, situation, right? We can't have bed and breakfasts in the town of Niskayuna, so it makes sense to have short-term unhosted rentals in the town of Niskayuna. But are there any other comments or concerns regarding?
Yeah, I share your concern. In fact, in the CAC, we were very, very concerned about unhosted Airbnb or rentals, primarily for a lot of things, impact the neighborhood, but also the affordability of housing. This has happened in North Elba. It's happened in other communities where if you have unhosted Airbnbs, it raises the cost of housing. Because people would rather rent the housing out as opposed to either rent it to a long-term rental or sell it at a market value. In fact, I just heard an article on NPR the other day, and they were talking about how even short-term rental restrictions doesn't really impact the housing sufficiently enough, because what you really need is you need a limit on how many days per year an Airbnb or a short-term rental can rent. And they're actually talking about if it was out in San Francisco, which is obviously has problems, limiting the amount of days to like 180 days a year that residents can rent. But yes, I would say from my perspective, the CAC felt that the hosted rental was necessary, and we're very concerned about the non-hosted rental. I think this is a big change to this ordinance.
Yeah, from the planning perspective, I agree with Dart's comments. The hosted versus non-hosted has a lot of heavy regulations that we drafted to be part of that. Now we know that this can be amended in the future. It's, you know, kind of a working code, albeit, but I think the sentiment and the way that our comprehensive plan is written is that we don't want our communities to be transitional and having that rental aspect. If it means that somebody that's aging out wants to rent out a couple times a year, there's provisions to do that in here. But the hosted versus the unhosted, we found that the unhosted are probably across the board going to be your most problematic issues that you're going to be dealing with.
Yes, I think that makes sense. And as far as the market value concern is, I mean, that's a legitimate, more than legitimate concern, because you're not basing the value on the home of its residential value, but you're basing it on its commercial rental value, which knocks out the income of most residential homeowners have, and that's where you get a big change in your community and your community setting. Any thoughts about the changes that were made, but keeping hosted in it?
I mean,
So let me just go through them quickly so you actually know what you're talking about. So the removal of the hosted versus unhosted distinguishment, which basically means that both hosted and unhosted would be allowed anywhere in the town under any zoning. Removal of one rental permit issued per property. We didn't have a lot of discussion on that. I think the only thing that the removal of that does is allow for apartments to be rented, because theoretically only one apartment on a property would be allowed to be rented. So I don't really have strong feelings on that one. A removal of a person being available within 60 minutes, 24 hours a day to address concerns that come up with short-term rentals. This is in here. It's exactly the same as what we require for a zombie or a vacant home. And it's so that we're not chasing people down in Florida and California. You have to have that local person that's available if something bad is happening at the house. So Removal of the assessment records being used for the purposes of figuring out the bedrooms. That's a proposal that I made. It's better to have the building inspectors determine the bedroom. The assessment records are sometimes old and the assessors don't necessarily look for exactly what makes a bedroom up to code. So we prefer that the building inspector or a home inspector determine the number of bedrooms in an application. This has the minimum rental duration, 7 consecutive days struck out, but the town board did put that back in there, so just ignore that. And then guests of the occupants are not allowed was struck out. This one is a little hard for me because weddings under 7, weddings, corporate events, and commercial functions are not allowed at short-term rentals in the town of Niskuna. Weddings and corporate events possibly are pretty easy to identify, but guests of the occupants not being allowed, I think, helps with the private parties that are so problematic when you rent out a whole unhosted house. So prohibiting guests, it does allow for people to, bring their dogs, have that space, but it's going to make whether or not there's a party, how many people are supposed to be in that house at any given time, very hard to enforce. Like right now, if it's a 2-bedroom rental unit and we go there and there's 20 people, we could just say you're only supposed to have 4. Like, what are you doing? But if guests are allowed and we go there and there's 20 people and the noise is a little bit of an issue, but noise is very hard to enforce, that makes that situation very hard to enforce, removing the guests as occupants prohibition. And then the vehicles being struck through, that was also an amendment that I had made because we removed the cap on bedrooms. So the vehicles are then tied directly to the number of bedrooms. And then again, this is just a removal of the hosted versus unhosted. This is a removal again of somebody being available for a complaint. And the last thing that was removed is that the enforcing party may contact the law enforcement, which I know that the police don't like to get involved in the zoning code, and that's not really the intent here. It's just that most of these things happen off hours. So they are going to need to have to call, probably the non-emergency 911 number. And if it's something the building inspector can go to, they're very good at dispatching the building inspector. And if it's a rowdy party, the building inspector should not be dispatched to something like that. So it just allows for that flexibility, which dispatchers already have within the other type of thing that happens in the town of Niskuna. So
As I recollect, though, part of the reason we have this ordinance is neighbors were complaining about large groups and parties at short-term rentals. And I'm concerned also with the removal of, the guest clause in this as well, because we're not solving a problem that a resident came or a group of residents came to ask us to solve. I just envision a 7-bedroom house having 15 people in there, and that is not residential. That is,
But if that situation is hosted,
that I think changes things.
that changes it.
Yeah.
So I think if we keep it hosted, really, that kind of narrows the things that could go wrong, I think substantially. But I still see a bunch of enforcement issues. And I don't know if there's a way around that. I don't know. There's only so much we're going to be able to do about enforcing, is the hosted person here? Does it have to be here 24/7? Is the guy, does go to the store, what the, there's all kinds of pitfalls, but, I do agree that, we can't allow people to do indirectly out of bed and breakfast, that what they can't do directly, right? Now, this is generally only a concern for more cities and towns that have big attractions, like Saratoga and Racetrack, waterfront property, or city living or something like that. I don't really know that. I mean, I know we have this one situation, but outside of this one situation, is it really a town-wide problem? Is it really, is it affecting a lot of people? I haven't heard that it was, but it certainly could spiral out of control if we were a really attractive place where people wanted to come and have this short-term thing, Now, we're in proximity to the racetrack, so that's a possibility, but, Saratoga's kind of got that covered. Union College, I think, is an attraction. And, there seems to be a lot of hotels now with the casino and the like, but there's bed and breakfasts in the city of Schenectady, so I'm kind of at a crossroads of, are we trying to legislate a problem that we really don't have? Or are we trying to prevent a problem in the future? Both of those are fine to do, as long as, we're not going overboard. We're not kicking people out of the box that we don't want to. I think hosted solves a lot of that.
I think that was one of the big compromise the planning board tried to figure out, was
Yes.
the hosted versus the unhosted. But I mean, I did hear that some of these changes are to try and make enforcement more streamlined, and I can tell you from an enforcer's perspective that removing the ability for them to call the police, the ability for them to have somebody there 24/7, the ability for us to just count the number of people, those three things make enforcement much harder. Those removal of that's not streamlining for me, it's making it a lot harder, just so you guys understand. I will still do it, whatever you adopt, but those types of things are much easier for me, my department, my building inspectors to enforce than things like the smoke's going into my yard, they're being too loud, they're parking, they're not parking in the street, but they're parking on the next block. Stuff like that, very hard to enforce. Stuff like, why is your person not here when we need them to call? That's an immediate problem. And then the next time we call and there's nobody available for us to talk to, they get their license revoked. Like, the things that are the most easy for me to do is for enforcement are being removed.
In a long-term perspective, if you look back, even where we were with the comp plan 10, 15 years ago, it's hard to predict what market changes are going to happen. And right now, if you go online, so we have one problematic house that's been consistent. At any given time, you might see 5 to 7 listings. In a few years, it might be 15, it might be 50. And as soon as you start to get, and there is this business model out there that they're taking these houses post-COVID, buying them and strictly renting them. College kids, 20 of them will pile in. And that's happening. And once you start to get these pockets spread out through Niskayuna, and it's on a cul-de-sac or it's in a neighborhood, that's going to create a community neighborhood issue. And even though we're dealing with a couple outliers now, in a few years, this may become more prevalent. I think you're going to see a lot more people that are going to age out and stay here, and they're going to start renting, albeit short terms. It might be just during graduation or in the summer or when they take a vacation, and throw it up there and say, hey, listen, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. If I can get $1,500 for my house to help offset the taxes, that's going to happen.
Can I ask a question? I saw an ad on the posting my neighborhood next door. All right, and someone wanted to sublet their apartment and sublet their house in Rivers Ledge.
Okay.
All right, now with something like that, would that be the same thing? I mean, would you have to have hosted or unhosted?
If it's a short term, right? We're only doing the short term.
I think it's not normally short term. Subletting would
Should
be
be,
like a year typically.
year.
Yeah, so they
Okay.
wouldn't fall under those regulations.
that's what I know.
Yeah.
I had that question when I saw the ad.
So, I mean, I think where this is helpful. For example, in the city of Schenectady, I have a family member who has a big plot house, but he has a small family. So he rents out his 3rd floor bedroom area to somebody. But he's hosted, he lives there as well. So I don't know how many hundred it is a month, but that is a type of situation that would be perfect for some of these bigger houses in this that have 5, 6, 7 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms, and they're turning over to another family, and a lot of families can't afford that, but they could afford it if they had something going on like that. The hosted doesn't cut any of those people out. It kind of, might even encourage something like that, which is fine. Subletting,
That's a different.
Yeah.
that's totally different.
I think it's a different perspective, John, because if you have a hosted, what you're basically allowing someone is to live in a house, stay in their house, and perhaps make that house more affordable. The aging out situation. You have the unhosted, what you're doing is you're setting up a business model, like David said, and that I've seen where you're just gonna rent the house out. You're gonna be an absentee landlord. You don't even have to be in the same state. And, you know, you have multiple rentals popping up, and that does affect the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It certainly does.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
agree.
I would say that pulling out the hosted changes this ordinance sufficiently that it should probably come back to CAC to look at it again, because it's not the same ordinance based on the conversation we had back in.
Well, but the town board takes their recommendations. If, I mean, Elena can, but I think that if you guys have weighed all of the factors and given it to the town board and they just don't agree with you, it doesn't normally get referred back.
Yeah, I know, but it's not the same. It's not the same ordinance that we put the thumbs up on. So that
But you could take this ordinance and comment on it at your next meeting with them,
we could do that, yeah.
right?
Yeah, yes, but I agree with you, Laura, that, you know, the
Ultimately, I
you
realized.
gave the okay on the first one and the recommendation, and there was a public hearing held, and the town board ultimately decided to go a different way. It doesn't mean that they couldn't decide to go a different way again based on the public hearing that hasn't yet happened, that's going to happen. There could still be changes. So typically it would not go back because there's been a recommendation and the town board accepted it in part and didn't accept it as part, I guess. But that doesn't necessarily preclude further discussion on, you know, if the board decides to do that.
I think just the important
I
thing
mean, the
is,
CAC. But
Well, I mean, even planning board, I guess, in this instance is advisory as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I mean,
ordinance.
I'm just, it's already an hour and, or no, we're only a half hour into the meeting. I'm sorry. I was just gonna say we had a long agenda and I want to make sure we have.
oh yeah, the rest of
Because
them
I
probably
can't
go
stay
pretty
for
quickly.
most of it.
Yeah.
Do you have one more thing, Rita?
Yes, and I thought this was important because when you got to hosting it on homeschool, I think that's important. For the reason being that there are children that are living in that area, and it's not like a main street, you know, and there's a lot of areas like that where you have, you know, space in between. It's dangerous for children these days. You don't know who is going to come in there and they disappear. If it's hosted, that person who's hosting it wants to be safe as well. So they're going to take a little bit more care in who they rented to. You see, if it's unhosted and you just have people signing up for it,
Absolutely.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, it makes sense.
Sure.
I worry about the show.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Okay, so that brings us to,
So I'll go through these ones pretty
Yeah.
fast. The follow-up to that is that you would theoretically have January 28th, a resolution to adopt amendments to the zoning code following the public hearing. I don't know if you want to make that tentative or how you want to handle that resolution. put it on the
I
agenda.
mean, I think it makes sense to have it tentative just because there seems to be a lot of discussion. I have no idea. I mean, I don't know which way this is gonna go, so. From my perspective, just putting it on there as tentative would might move forward or.
that makes sense.
this is just the public hearing.
So what, Laura, the public hearing's on the 14th at our organizational meeting.
Mm-hmm.
She's talking about the meeting at the end of the month, 2 weeks after that.
Mhm.
It might be on for a resolution to adopt, or there might be more changes more discussion that has to be had based on the public hearing on the 14th. So we're gonna put it on as a tentative.
That's fine.
Okay.
Tentative.
So I'm just B through I is the renewal of our zoning board of appeals member, zoning board chair, planning board and zoning commission, planning board chair, conservation advisory council, tree council, complete streets committee, and architectural review board. The only one that, and you know, following our policy, I reached out to all of them to see which ones wanted to continue. All of them wanted to continue except for three. Richard Green, who is stepping back after completing the term wonderfully. He was a fantastic member of the zoning board of appeals, stepping down. I reached out to, the two most senior alternates, and, only one of them is available to do, to be a true member. So I'm recommending that we appoint William Stein as the true member. He's been an alternate for a couple years. He does a good job. The zoning board chair, John Hoke has been the chair now for a year or two. He does a great job. I'd recommend reappointing him. The planning board and zoning commission, Chris LaFamme, term was up. He's willing to serve another, and he's a fantastic member of the planning board. Planning board chair, David Giarpino has taken over for Kevin after over 25 years, and David's doing a fantastic job. I highly recommend reappointing him as the chair. The CAC is only a year appointment, so you have to do the whole council every year. I did lose Vicky Michaela because she's moving, and Richard Frontero because he's focusing more on a different volunteer group. So I will have 2 vacancies on the CAC again. Tree Council, everybody wishes to continue. There's 3 of them that are up. Complete Streets Committee, everybody wishes to continue. And Architectural Review Board, it's just 1 member, Ken Savine, and he wishes to continue. So that's a pretty non-controversial round of humans.
So we basically have 2 with that whole run through 2 CAC vacancies.
Yeah, we lost 2 CAC people.
We need an alternate.
And also, because we're taking an alternate from zoning board and filling a main person, we're down to 2 alternates on zoning board, which is really tough.
More.
So we could actually have 3 more alternates on zoning board.
You cannot be on planning board and zoning board, correct? Okay. Because we did get an application, but it was somebody that was on planning board.
No, but that was for the Board of Assessment review and that.
Oh, right. But it was CBA, but. They can't, can they be on both?
We might be able to be on both.
Those are very different. We can, make recommendations to each other.
I think that they could probably do both. We need just separate, do we need to have the bar going on for the organizational meeting?
I don't know, because there's 2,
So maybe the
for
end of the
one
month.
spot. Let's do the end of the month, each set up, just so we can circulate both. Maybe I could even get some CAC applicants, hopefully put it out there in an email and
On ZBA.
ZBA and see if we could get at least a few more on them.
And then the only one I didn't have was your committee, Rita. If you want to send me a list of people who need to be reappointed, I can put them on.
Oh, yes, I think it's no one, Mrs. McKinney and, Janet Jackson, Marion Jackson. They, and, also, we only had 2 people at our meeting. Liz and Lily.
Mhm.
Right, they were at our meeting. No one, we had our vote for chairperson. No one wanted to take the slot for chairperson. You know, so.
So we need more people on historic preservation committee, and maybe
Yes.
to look at their terms and see if anyone needs to be reappointed in 2025.
How many do we usually have on this?
I mean, I think it can-
5.
They're supposed to be.
Yeah, 5.
Are you saying Jet does not want to continue and the other?
Well, they didn't come to the last meeting. And
Okay.
I had canvassed them as far as who wanted, we were gonna vote on, some for the last meeting. And I canvassed them like in October for, anyone that would want to take these positions. But no one wanted to take them.
We have phone numbers and stuff for them. Maybe we could just.
Yeah,
give them some
yeah.
calls today and see what's going on. Maybe we can put out, I don't want to put out an email preemptively if they do actually continue, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
They probably did, but it's like Christmas time and everything going on.
I know,
We were-
December's tricky.
Yeah.
I think it's a minimum of 5, but I think you can have 7 or.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think
So
we
we
should
should
like,
let out on TV.
because that way, like, if Mr. McKinney has health problems, I think sometimes, so like, if he can't come, then you have more than 5, then you're still gonna have a pretty robust committee.
8 or 9 or 10 would help us because in this way, as people, fluctuate back and forth, I mean, we really need people to vote on the permits and all this. So that would help.
Okay.
The last resolution I had was a resolution to award the contract for sidewalk reconstruction on Palmer Ave. We selected the Newcastle. They were the lowest bidder. And we're encumbring the ADA money that we had. I sent you all this up.
I was in the process of responding back when I saw you go up the stairs and I thought it's gonna be like the meeting, so.
Then for the regular meeting, we have the tentative resolution to adopt those amendments to the zoning code. A resolution setting 2025 TDE rates, that's pretty normal. We have, Weston and Sampson, I mentioned change to, sorry, not here. What did they change to? KB something. MJ, and then we may have, one of the people that used to work at GPI, a great engineer, started his own company. I don't remember what the name of it is, but he's already sent TD rates to us, so. And then a resolution hiring student workers. Right now I have Jacob Reasons in my office. He's fantastic. He's the one that did your minutes for this meeting and, helps Trish out a lot. And, so I'd like to reappoint him for 2025.
I have a question. I mean, just in this meeting, we've heard a lot of reservations by a lot of people on this committee for the short-term rental. Do we really want to even tentatively put it for the 28th meeting? Wouldn't it be better to slow it down? Should really have a better discussion with the town?
I'm not opposed to that. I mean, I intend on talking to, other people about it between now and then seeing if there's something that we can resolve to put on or not. There's no great rush, but I do want to get something done sooner rather than later.
No, I understand, John, and I feel the urge to get something done, but I am very concerned about the unposted and it will potentially have unintended consequences that will not solve the problem, but potentially make it worse. And this is a really important issue for the town for a number of reasons. And I think this is a very last minute change. I think we really need to understand the implications of what we're doing here and have a more discussion on this.
I'm not opposed to that, but currently it's hosted in the resolution, right? Because I think that was at the last meeting, I made an amendment to the resolution to put hosted back in.
No, the amendment was to put the minimum week back in.
Or the minimum set days.
Yeah, the minimum set date got put back in, but the hosted versus unhosted is still proposed to be removed.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
And then obviously if you guys, hold that public hearing and then to make that change, you probably have to have another public hearing. That's why that's fine, yeah.
Potentially, it depends. I mean, if it reverts back to the first, like,
The first code, it might be okay.
you know what I mean? Like, we may have to, might not have to. It depends on what the changes are. If it's like I don't know what the compromise would be, but if there was some type of compromise that we might not need to, but if it significantly changes from the first one or the second one, then there'd have to be a third.
I mean, the original ordinance had both posted and unposted.
We had
People-
two public meetings because
Yeah.
of the content that changed from the takeaways that we had, so. I would foresee you, at least if you do make the change back, to have another public meeting after that. I think you're gonna have to
Make the change back to,
host it in.
If they revert back to what was done, there's already been a public hearing on that, so. they
Oh, there
don't have
is?
to do it,
Okay, so
yeah.
they don't have to go back because of the current.
Not if it
the current
reverts
draft. Okay.
back. If there's significant changes from either the first one or the second one that we're going to have one on, then there would need to be a
okay.
third one.
why don't we pull it then? And we'll have another discussion about it. And then maybe at our next meeting, we'll have something ready to put on for resolution.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just my recommendation would be that, we always say this is the meeting where we have these discussions and really got these ideas. And if there's town board members that don't agree, it might be really good for them to comment to them. And then we can have that robust discussion. Because I think, having that reason for wanting to make those changes, being discussed at this table might be a better place for it to be discussed. But technically the resolution is coming out of this committee and it's very split.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think
This is an open meeting, that's why she's saying it. The problem is not well, there wants to be a robust discussion and the person who's requesting the changes isn't available to attend this meeting and they have a special meeting, which I know was requested a couple months ago, but I don't know.
Because you could have a special economic meeting.
It might be a good idea just because this is dragging on a little bit and we're not seeing a fuller consensus and everything. So it's good to maybe that hashed out and because I know you're looking forward to trying to get your timing's a little bit different. Like we want to get this right, but like we also want to get something in place so that
For summer.
this is what happened last year was, you know, like they get booked up on Airbnb or wherever and it's harder to just have them say, okay, you gotta cancel all these because they don't allow. So
We
like,
might be you're allowed to do that, so the sooner we can adopt the code, better.
so I get,
Yeah.
I get the need to.
So we're not going to, won't be tentative. Won't be,
Suggestion is to just keep it on as tentative because if it's tentative, that it doesn't matter either way.
okay.
If it
You know,
refers back
if
to the other
the
code.
decision is to revert back after the public hearing and it
And
could
we
be
will-
passed just that way,
Yeah.
then why not have it on as a tentative?
And we'll try to caucus it in between and see something to discuss at the next. Likely,
I feel like you.
Which
you can
next
tell
meeting
where
are we
this
talking
comes
about?
in.
our next meeting. I don't think, I understand it's tentatively on, but I don't foresee us voting on it. That's
Well, I mean, the other thing is you can have a robust discussion on it on the agenda meeting on the 14th, sure, too.
That's true. That's true.
I'll be there for you.
So we'll keep it tentative.
We keep it tentative and then maybe we could say,
We
we're
Well,
gonna.
stuff on tentatively all the time, even if we don't think it might be on just in case. So,
Okay.
I don't anticipate anything happening, on posted setting. But of course, I'm only one man.
Okay, the only other one that we've been discussing at tree council, which I've got to put on here, which may or may not be ready, is a resolution recognizing, Market 32 for the landscaping job they did, when they took over ShopRite.
Ceremonial.
Yeah, ceremonial.
can we do that in February since we already have so many?
We have
Right. Okay, I'll put it on for
But the
February.
one that I'm gonna try to put the 2 50 years together, so it's not. I mean, it's.
We're gonna have a lot of people between them and the officer that would recognize it. I just don't know that you're gonna have the space for everybody.
Okay, so we'll do that.
Yeah, it's just a tree council worked very closely with Market 32 and they noticed that it was a dry summer and Market 32 watered their newly planted trees almost every day. And their landscaping was just above and beyond. So tree council wanted to recognize when a business does a good job and it makes a difference in our architecture overlay. But yeah, it's.
It's not a rush and we can do it in February.
Yeah,
We
you can
just
do it
have
in
a
March.
couple.
I mean, there isn't any landscaping for anybody to see.
Do we have a formal name for our square there?
It's Market 32 Place.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that,
That was
official?
the official name.
It is official, yeah.
I was wondering about that. One other thing,
Big genius, is that what it's
Yeah.
known as?
while we're in the ceremonious mood, I really want to do something for Mr. McKinney this year.
Okay.
Like, we got to figure out something substantial. Dedicate something to, maybe something on his part.
Yeah.
Maybe, something like
Okay,
on or around the train station or something.
so I
mean,
can
we
put that
gotta,
on for the
you
next
know,
one too, although that might be better in the spring. but
I agree, but we gotta do,
We should start deciding what we're gonna.
yeah, we do.
dedicate.
we
Yeah,
do.
and then, the Niskuna Harbor applications to PUD, my apologies, at the last meeting, I thought that went directly to the town board, but it actually goes to the planning board for recommendation to the town board, for whether or not for you to accept the application. So I can explain that at the agenda meeting if you guys need me to, but it's on planning board meeting for, January 13th. And then, it'll come back to you guys for whether or not you want to accept it. Well, maybe you could do it at the end of the month or February. Just check that. You want to just check the timeline?
But we have the meeting the next day, right?
We won't be doing it on the 14th because it won't be ready in time. I'd have to have it.
You guys haven't put that down.
No, I'm just
At the
thinking of the
earliest,
regular
it's-
meeting.
I know it's
We
coming.
can put it as a tentative.
Could we, though, because the planning board's gonna see it for the first time, maybe make a recommendation at the end of the month, so the rest of people would come to take the vote.
The recommendation is just for the application.
It's just for the application, but I was going through the code when I was making the packet for you and realized that it had the referral to the planning board on the acceptance of the application. Oops. I was surprised by that one. Planning board?
Okay. So a couple of projects, 2339 First Schenectady Road is the mobile station. There's a current application in for a pretty substantial footprint expansion of 150%. This is a pre-existing non-conforming use, which would be grandfathered in at a 10%. It's about, give or take, 145 square feet. So size of a decent sized bedroom could be added. We haven't seen that type of application yet to see what a conforming footprint expansion would look like. And it's been back to their engineer. We've only seen the project a couple times. There's been a lot of community support and there's been a lot of community opposition. That's where we are with that one. Let's see, 1430 Balltown Road is the new district headquarters building. They did their rebranding, so you'll see a monument sign consistent with what you see at all the other schools that's gone in. And they also did a very nice job on two facade signs. One will be on the driveway side at the marquee where their covered entrances, and then one will be on the left corner with the Niskuna logo on it, district headquarters.
The Niskuna logo.
The Niskuna school logo. Not the Niskuna. Some various tenant changes we have down. Some areas down at the. I guess the other one was the Balltown property between CVS and CVS was approved for a 14 unit townhome. And yep, that got in. It was approved at the final planning board meeting.
Hmm.
So what you'll see there are two groupings of homes, one on Balltown, one on Van Antwerp. There is a large section of green space that was being set aside in addition to their drainage area, a multi-use path and sidewalk connecting, and limitation of tree clearing. So there's a couple things they still have to work out, but overall, we thought it was a pretty good concept plan. Also connectivity to Van Antwerp and Balltown.
How's that gonna look? What did they decide as far as trying to avoid it being a cut through?
So
What did they?
there's a road that comes in directly across the Barcelona. And then it comes and it loops in and then comes back down to Van Antwerp. So it's got a bend. And it also has
not
like a spur dead end that goes north towards CVS. They'll have an emergency egress or some sort of thing there. So technically, is it a cut through? Yes. But
Easy.
not easy enough that they're going to, it does have a curve in it, so it's not a straight shot
Mhm.
through. It is a private area, so if they wanted to put a gate up or a bollard or something, they have the ability to do that. I don't think that they will. But again, if it becomes problematic, that developer through that association could say, listen, we're gonna recommend this, even if it's at one end. You know, then you get into key cards and mood detectors and all that type of stuff. So
And they did a traffic study, right? Because I think I had this question, I didn't realize they had already done a traffic study to make sure that the impact on Balltown was not gonna be a significant one. That's right.
It is,
Delta.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so bear in mind too, that there previously were 4 curb cuts for those 4 single family homes.
Mhm.
That's been down to 1. And the same thing on Van Antwerp, there was a house there. There could potentially have been a lot more curb cuts on both streets.
So it's really like less curb cut.
It is less curb cuts and
But it's more people, right? It's less curb cut, but there's more traffic.
Be more
now.
people, but really, I don't know how many people.
But I think it's great. It's a long time coming and it's really big. And it solves,
Someone who participated in litigation for
Yeah.
years. I mean, we had the ruling against us and they arguably could have put in 21 single family homes as of
Mhm.
right without any,
17.
I mean, they stopped within the planning process, but, was it 17?
Yeah.
That would've
Was
been-
21 what they started with the townhouses? Is
That
that,
might have been, yeah.
they've come down like quite a bit from what they were originally, thinking, what they could have put in there without all of the variances.
I just get a lot of questions. I want to make sure I have the details correct, so.
Yeah, I think the traffic impact will be negligible, and the other good thing about this that the architectural review board had a really good stake in is that the configuration of these townhomes, there's two different types, but they have to be rotated the way they're placed. So you're going to get varying facade. You're not just going to see bang, 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 the same thing. And we were actually pretty adamant about that, about not having garage dominated facades, how they station them so headlights wouldn't come and hit people. They really did work with us on some of those things, and the renderings that were last shown reflect a lot of the takeaways that we had from our initial meetings. So
Well done.
it should be a better development addition than what you might have seen 30 years ago, where, you know, you come in and you got a lot of the same repetition. This is at least going to change up some colors, some roof lines and porches.
That is excellent news, and it's great work, and it's really a tribute to the Architectural Review Board, it sounds like, which is relatively new, right? How long have we had that?
3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Relatively, you know, that's really great. Well done. Thank you, Mr. Bill.
Okay, that's, big projects.
I don't have any updates on the grants unless anybody had any specific questions. Complete Streets has been working away on sidewalk projects. I don't have any data back for Bridgewood or Cornelius, but when I do get the data back, we'll reach out to the residents and have very like in-person meetings with them on what the sidewalk would look like, for their properties. City Council will probably actually start working on Arbor Day at their next meeting, finishing their master plan. And like I said, they keep asking me to do a resolution recognizing Chris Shepherd.
Do we need more members for the tree council?
We have had one vacancy kind of long-standing, so we can take one more.
Still one.
Yeah. And, then we're, working with highway because they want to do a spring project, and highway did, we're trying to get the budget to go as far as possible, purchase some trees that we can plant, in the spring, and, maybe purchase smaller trees so that we can get that, tree planting up. So many thanks to Ray, Pete, and Patty for December 31st scrambling. And then, maybe.
Okay, at our last meeting, we also talked to the applicant of 2339. The gas station had a very lengthy conversation with him about several different aspects of the project, how it lay out, trees, buffering, and impact the general neighborhood. The conversation went really well. We did not make a recommendation at that meeting. Imagine you make one.
Was there also a discussion about preserving other land that wasn't going to be developed in the Sunset?
Yeah, there's essentially 3 parcels involved with this. The fourth one, if you include the applicant's home, that's separate.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
So there's a parcel to the east and there's a parcel to the north that's around the property. Only one of them is a building lot,
okay.
which is the one on, what is it, Cayuga or Alabama?
Cayuga.
Cayuga. Is that the one that comes out?
Algonquin.
Oh, no, it's Algonquin.
Okay.
Sorry, I get my names confused there.
It's treated right now, right?
It's treated, yes. More to come on that. We did briefly talk about the what that involved.
I know it's difficult for the non-conforming, but would what he do, I guess it's about expanding the footprint, right? And the footprint of the building isn't really the parking lot. The parking lot is kind of, so all of his cars are exposed in the parking lot. I guess it would be nice if that was somehow covered up from an aesthetic standpoint, but that would be way more than 10%.
Well,
right?
we talked about that, and he does not anticipate an increase in business for this, although he is gonna have extra base. One of the things we did talk about was the parking and the visual impact of that.
Mhm.
And right now it's very random and cars are parked all over the place.
Yeah.
We talked about organizing that and, certainly, it'd be on one side, on the south side, and then some on the, on the east side, and then some on the west side as well. It would be more organized. But again, we didn't really discuss
Mhm.
as a committee. We just asked questions about that, but that was raised.
So is there a potential for like a give and take between the conservation of land and an increase over the 10% for the foundation, or is that not allowed? Oh,
Well,
And the
It
point
can
of the
be.
zoning board, so, I mean,
Right.
there's an advantage to like working with the CAC to see if land can be conserved and screening parking and stuff like that. But ultimately, the only people that can decide whether or not it can stand by the select board doesn't go to the town board at all. Because it's a variance of our code and they have to provide, evidence of hardship.
yes.
So,
So they might not be able to consider that.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting because there's 3 separate parcels. There's one parcel. I think it would be better from a conservation standpoint, but the applicant is basically saying that the project stands on a single parcel, not the other 2 parcels, although it's in the packet, so
Mhm.
it's sort of,
Hmm.
Right. And
it's sort of an odd situation that
Yeah.
normally we don't.
that brings up a very good point, because this is the second time that I've been on planning that the applicant has done an application. And the initial application was to combine lots. So at some point, I don't know if he got bad information from a consultant, but there was even a larger footprint of what was shown on this expansion that included the lot to the north, the lot to the east, not as private property, but
Mhm.
almost like a continuation lot.
Oh,
He currently has a very, very small storefront with a bathroom in the back of the building. You have to walk to the outside to get to. And then it's 2 repair bays, and they're modest.
They're tight.
mhm.
Yes.
Yeah,
So the current configuration is to bring to come outward a little bit, but the building to also go out of the back and have 2 bays connect, almost like a pass through in the back. And then reconfiguring of the inside footprint to make it so that when you walk in, you're not just standing with the cashier right in front of you.
Mhm.
A bathroom they can get to in a school.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very
It
tight.
is.
But again, the other thing that the planning board is wrestling with is that for Schenectady Road, we have a lot of information in there on the comp plan. Does it set a precedent for a
Mhm.
business? And again, like, is this business just growing out of its current footprint? It's
Mhm.
difficult. So it's not an easy one. It's
yeah.
definitely something that's
Yeah.
gonna get vetted out by us. But again, like Laura said, this is just a recommendation for planning. Ultimately, when whatever he decides to move forward with, goes on.
Yeah, and this isn't the first time we've had this issue. We had this with Niskuna Veterinary Hospital.
Yes,
Years
I
ago,
remember.
same
Yeah.
sort of situation with
Same thing.
business has changed and the applicant has come to do business more properly.
Yeah.
they didn't-
But they didn't do it, but
Yeah.
well, I think he was able to sell.
he was,
He was looking
yeah,
at
he
that.
was.
Yeah, it's really worked out nice because it's the nice residential living there. I think there's a series of apartments. The old veterinary.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about Aqueduct. We're not talking about you.
The one with the fire station.
Yeah.
That's what we did.
Yeah, I can say there's apartments there. I don't know. Anyway,
Okay, architectural review board, like we talked about, working on 1552 Flossmoor Road, doing a good job. Comprehensive plan committee, the RFP did get awarded. I'm very thankful to the town board for their support on that. Starts, bringing them probably early next. Oh, comprehensive plan committee. Oh,
yeah, no, at the last meeting, we actually talked about, the RFP, how to structure it to ensure that we got through the process by the end of the year. I'm very pleased that we got the money and we got the, and so, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good. That's big.
So much nicer than I think I cut your budget now.
Yeah, you supported us, we know.
You know what? I always live under budget, so I know.
To do it for that.
Yeah, they pretty much said almost everything in our RFP, not everything, but most of it.
What was hard about it was we knew we had a one-shot deal. So we had to structure it in a way that provided flexibility and yet got what we wanted. So it was a really interesting discussion.
And as long as we get it done by the end of the year.
Yeah. Well done.
Building department enforcement, it's January 3rd. You will see our annual letters going out for registration of non-conforming businesses, chickens, home occupations, accessory dwelling units, and vacant homes. So, the vacant home registration process was the most recent code that we've adopted and I'd say that it's been going very well. And I would say that having the contact information for the vacant home registrations has already saved a lot of time in at least 2 instances that I know.
That's great.
So, planning department, the general economic transportation with water, sewer, engineering, and highway. Clark pretty much covered the entire holiday for me, and he's not here today. I will make sure that he gets Sally's note about hydrogeology, I think it was in there.
I think he was on that, you know?
Yeah, he was. And so we'll forward that on to the 2 firms that we've been looking at, and we do just kind of have to finalize budget and decide what to do there.
We've done some in-house map.
Oh, you have?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, this will bring it.
Okay, so we can share that with Clark and then the people and see what we want to do. And then Console Road sidewalk, it's kind of snowy now, but at some point you and I should just have a meeting with that guy.
Yes.
And then the Looney Road easement, I still have not heard back from the homeowner, so I may give them a call in a week or 2 after the holidays have settled in. I talked to him once, they wanted everything in writing. I sent it to him in writing, but I haven't heard back from them.
That's the woman saying that right.
Audrey,
Audrey said she was come back on their door.
Oh, really?
You know that.
they've been very nice. Like I said before, they just worry about trespassing, so. And then, Dr. Horton had kind of a family emergency, unable to come today. Do you want to add anything?
If I have anything for this one.
Yeah,
I want to ask about the historic register.
Mhm.
Because we need to start on that. I mean, I was hoping that this year that we would have had that at least start on it. Okay, but we had a lot of other things going on, but this year we really need to put that together. We really need to actually go through our list. And we have the demolitions. Okay, so we do have a list of demolitions. We can go through the list, you know, remove those, upgrade those, whatever. But we really need to start this list. One thing is that we discussed before is putting all of this information, like, you know, title information on the web. That can't go because that is a security issue. There's a lot of there. Well, take it from other. I take from other municipalities. All right, there's always a paywall because what the paywall does is you have to log in, right? You have to log in. You have to provide some kind of identification.
Are you talking about just regular property data?
Right. No. What's out there now is like real estate and you know, like a town that puts out certain things, but we were having a discussion before and we were saying with the titles and whatnot, all the title information and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean.
we would never put that online.
Oh, okay.
I
just
don't
wanted
think
to
we
know
would
that.
need to. if we
No,
just-
No, you don't need to, and not only that, I mean, there's a lot of forgeries going around, there's a lot of, you know, this is a really bad time to do something like that. But what we could do is just create profiles as we receive from the assessors office. They already had from the 1985, you know, audit. They have nice portfolios already made up for properties that are considered really historic.
Well, why don't we loop them in then? We see if they might, if Eric's department might want to help us get.
No,
something
he's
going.
been corresponding with
Well,
me.
why don't we, let's get that going. You're thinking of registry like a list online, someplace that we can put this information about historic homes, or what are you envisioning?
Well, you put it online, but see, and online is the end of it. What I'm saying is for us to do an audit ourselves. And this includes, you know, like we have to, every year, we have to list these properties that had met the 50-year mark. Okay, they can be considered historic properties. And we have lists, I have a 335 page document of properties, namely the Grand Boulevard plot. I mean, that's a whole historic section right there, but it's not, none of the work's been done on it. Okay,
I guess I'm wondering, what's the work? What do you mean by the work?
all right, researching, like the research, I have quite a few buildings on that plot that are already researched. Okay, and that's
So then when you do the research, you're saying we're gonna put it into like,
our own registry.
what do we, I guess that's what I'm asking. What
Oh,
do you
it's
think
sorry,
that registry is gonna look like?
And more of a database,
Okay,
because once you have the database and you have the list, when something
What the
comes up,
data is, so the data is the address of the house, the
the
year,
title information, all of that.
the year that it was
The
built.
year that it was built,
Okay, now do you
Okay.
mean title information, like a list of owners?
like a list of owners, but you don't have to make it as detailed and expensive as the actual title information at the, because if you look at a real estate, I took a look at the real estate. Okay, you really have no control over that. People just throw things out there, but they're not in depth as far as what a title search would look like.
Oh, we have to do a title search to get the year.
No, but I do them all the
Oh.
time.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I
Yeah.
do all the time for each one of these permits, anything that we're doing.
so why not just put it into a shared spreadsheet? If we could lock it for edits and put it right out there. That way it just lives and exists and we can change it at will.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you is like when you make changes to it, okay, you could also, like if you have a database, you can also keep the old information. You see what I'm saying? And have it go to a redundant table.
Let's talk about this after this meeting and we'll come up with a plan. I think it's a great idea. I'm having trouble envisioning what you are, so I.
No, because that's the back end of what you see when you go to the website for the national and the state. When they give you a list, like you go to Chris
Yes.
and they get it right. That's what you're looking at. You're looking at a product from a database.
Schenectady, I'm sure has something, historical register list.
I think they're totally-
Did
they
you
do.
plot the line?
They
Did you?
do. You were talking about different designations, right? We wanted to track Paul Schaefer homes or all. of these
Right,
things.
because we had that issue with the Paul Schaefer homes. Okay, somebody, I don't know, they were convincing people that it was historic. Okay, but meanwhile, the state and national found that it doesn't, it's not eligible, they're not eligible.
Yeah.
All right, now, my mistake was seeing, well, maybe I can, and it ended up exploding more than it should have. So right now, what you have a group of people, right?
I was gonna talk to John after, but yeah, so I met with some residents that want to form a committee just to do an inventory of the Schaefer homes. Four of them currently, but we also reached out to the Architectural Review Board. We'd like to get a designee from there. And maybe somebody from the Historic Preservation Committee, get a group of 6. I would be a liaison to the planning board. But I think I need to talk to you because I think we have to get a recognized committee. Because people are going to be traversing around the neighborhoods and talking to people. And we've had very strict outlines of what we're doing for documentation. The issue I've had when I started this with Michael Scrubby Tennis years ago was I'd start walking a neighborhood and then I would talk to somebody who had a Schaefer home and they bring inside and they talk to you for 45 minutes. So and we cut the kitchen and I'm like, and so for me, from my architectural background is great, but
Very
we
time
want to be,
consuming.
not only that, but we also want to, what we want to do is just like Rita said, get the listing together to ultimately just get a local recognition.
Mhm.
And I'm going to draft up something to you. I'd like to get a committee recognized by the town so that the people can get badged. They could schedule walk around
Sure.
in the neighborhoods in the spring, take some photographs just from the outside,
Mhm.
strictly from outside, not going inside. Anything like
But the
that.
insides are great, Paul Schaefer homes. They got the built-in beams.
That would be, so ultimately, if you get the local recognition, then you can send this letter out to, well, I'll make up a number, 50 homeowners in town. They could then form their own group. They could meet at the Kelly Adirondack Center
Yeah.
quarterly.
do it.
They could get,
Absolutely.
share ideas, talk about what contractors work, which ones don't work,
Mhm.
things are similar. And then the other layer is to talk about Schaefer Homes, and we know they have documentation that support that Paul Schaefer was involved. But there's also Schaefer Inspired Homes where he worked on them as a draftsman, or his brother did some of that. So the net is going to be a little wider than we thought, but I think the collectively between the two committees that are currently standing and the one that we would make, we could get a pretty thorough listing
Yeah,
of what's out there.
that sounds great. That sounds great.
Yeah, I'm gonna draft up something now to send to you, and I was
Sure.
hoping you would sponsor this too. As
Absolutely.
a resolution, just to get a recognized committee, and
That's great.
it's been long overdue. I've been chipping away at it for
Yeah.
years, and I know Dark.
Yeah,
Well, I grew up in a Paul Schaefer home in Schenectady, and it's, you know,
Yeah.
they're very unique. The built-ins that they have, the built-in shelvings, and they're awesome.
Might not be a bad idea.
After though.
Yeah.
Ourselves out.
Yeah, we can use, also I really saw a really good, the GE plot, I mean, not GE plot, the Rambo Buck plot model.
Right.
Like they have the newsletter
Mhm.
where they get online and they talk to each other and they, you know, and they
Yeah.
communicate. So it's like they all get together. And another thing that happened, people in this community, they need something. Okay, I spent my Christmas and my New Year's with people in the community emailing me back and forth, posting pictures of Duffy's Tavern.
Oh, that was,
It
I actually didn't
blew
know
up.
about that for you. Somebody messaged me
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, it blew up this whole
Yeah,
week. So
I-
that's how I spent my New Year's and
I
Christmas
saw
with
some
Duffy's
of that as
Tavern.
well.
Yes. And but the fire that was lit under them and the emails I got, some were requesting more information, some were giving me information. I had a bunch of pictures now. I have the broken down version, you know,
Sure.
the original. That
So,
to
yeah.
see all that fire going on in 1 week, like a week and a
You
half.
should ask some of those people if they want to join the historic.
Oh,
television.
Schockmeyer, he's going to now fill out his forms to have his property on the National Register because he has been holding on to the forms.
I wanted to connect you with the Burgers too. And Burger reached out about. Yeah, there was something in the article about it anyways, but she and her husband seem to have a wealth of knowledge just to,
Yes,
just to connect you guys. But
because Justin, who originally contacted me, he spelled it Derger.
oh, did she message you to say it
And
was spelled
when he
wrong?
was a kid, he thought it was Burger Island instead of Niska Island because the
Yeah.
Burger Farm
Was
is
right
on the
there.
west, right?
Yeah.
This is what this child is looking at.
Hmm.
And so we have a surprise plan for Justin because we're getting all this information together and we're gonna rattle his childhood.
I'll send you over their info.
But that's community. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
this was
community.
people, we didn't know each other before, but boy, do we know each other now.
Right?
Okay, and we'll schedule a follow-up meeting on the historic register.
Yeah, definitely. Great. Is this accurate, this list here from?
It's accurate.
Okay, very good. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn. And all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.